I was living the dream, and because of a horrible decision, I had to face the nightmare.
In June, a case out of Stanford University sparked national outcry.
2 former Vanderbilt University football players have been found guilty of raping an unconscious 21-year-old.
University of North Carolina football player.
A series of sexual assault allegations.
Prosecutors charging the 22-year-old Beatty.
3 unnamed football players could be facing criminal charges.
5 counts of sexual assault.
A sex abuse scandal involving football players.
A judge issuing a warrant for his arrest.
Dismissed from the Boise State football team.
6 months in jail and 10 years on probation.
Suspended from the team indefinitely.
The jury convicted him of sexual assault.
Sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Will remain a registered sex offender for the rest of his life.
I think the biggest issue around sexual assault in athletes is that it happens even once.
Because every day you go on Twitter and you say, are you kidding? It's happening again. Like, what on earth is making these kids do this?
You've perpetrated a crime against a young woman. That's never okay. Going forward, you will always have that label.
The girls that I've been around, and the girls that are suffering and that have been raped, it makes you mad because it's not fair. Girls don't feel safe on campus.
Just listening to the radio on a daily basis now, anytime I turn it on, we're hearing about sexual assault. We're hearing people describe being groped, being harassed by a stranger at school.
You feel as an athlete or someone who's associated with sports that we all get labeled.
The thing about athletics is that anytime you have an all-male space, you have a potential problem.
There is a feeling that, well, something bad has already happened to this person, and we can't change that. But let's not be too harsh on the perpetrator because we don't want to ruin his life too. And that makes me want to throw up.
You've got thousands upon thousands of people watching you and think that you can't do anything wrong, and so you go out there and do something wrong, like, he's fine, he's just an athlete.
I think that there is a belief that athletics is something healthy and character building. And so somehow we should try to do everything we can, just bend over backwards to keep these young men in this supposedly healthy and supposedly character-building activity, even when they have committed terrible crimes against women.
The whole world is talking about you like you're the problem, and I just so happen to believe that you're the cure. I'm Alexis Jones, and this is ProtectHer. I think the reason that I've been speaking in so many locker rooms lately is just because that's where the impact happens. I've been working in girl empowerment for a decade, and I wasn't seeing the needle moving, and if anything, the statistics were just getting worse. And I had the opportunity to speak in a locker room, and there was just magic there. There was something that happened, and you have these guys getting super emotional, and all of a sudden I saw that as a new angle of how to better protect girls was by having conversations with the young men in the locker rooms.
What y'all out here for, man? What you here for, huh? Does your life matter? Does your life matter? You ready for this? You ready to take control? Are you giving up control or are you taking control? Huh? You know what happens. You know what happens when people don't take control. They get deleted. You ready to get deleted or you ready to take control?
First and foremost, I'm here because I get to have a conversation with y'all, a conversation that really matters to me, a conversation that's really, really close to my heart. Raise your hand if you think there's a problem in the way in which girls are being treated. Raise your hand in the room if you know a girl who has been harassed or assaulted or raped.
The only challenge that I'm presenting you today is, will you be courageous enough to be the kind of human being who thinks for themselves and takes themselves off autopilot? I apologize for all the times that you haven't been included in this conversation, of all of this girl empowerment, rah, 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 everywhere, and it didn't dawn on us to realize that you guys are, in fact, the cure.
2 years ago, Elite 11 called me to come and speak to the top 18 quarterbacks in the country.
Please welcome Alexis Jones to the Elite 11.
I'm gonna start with a story that has to do with the power of the jersey. There was a girl and her mom, and they pulled up at a stoplight here in Los Angeles. 4 big dudes are leaning outside a Jeep, and they're making all these like vulgar, disgusting gestures and yelling at this chick's mom. At a certain point, she thought they were actually getting out of the Jeep. The girl in the car leans over and pulls out her phone and goes to take pictures, because that's the only power that she has in that moment, right? And so as she drives off, her mom starts crying hysterically, pulls over on the side of the street. Like, imagine your moms for a second. Like, your mom. I don't know who these guys are, but like, I hope we find them, because these guys just made my mom cry. 9 minutes after posting, someone said, oh my God, 3 of the starting players for the Lakers. I'm just gonna randomly pass these out. I don't want you to turn these over yet. So the crazy part of the story is that chick was me.
2 Lakers players, Nick Young and Jordan Clarkson, have been accused of sexually harassing 2 women.
The team says they're investigating this very seriously.
They go from the kind of, I'm too cool for school, to the, oh my gosh.
So those of you who have a piece of paper, will you flip it over? Because this was the response that I got online. They're numbered. So number 1.
Put a gun to her head and killed, then her dead body just to remind her of her place. # real man.
Someone shove it in this mouth to shut her up. We will find you. Alexis kind of left everybody's jaws on the ground.
A real man needs to put you in your place and you until you can't walk.
Can't wait until you have a daughter so I can rape them too.
Can't wait until you have a daughter so I can rape them too. You see them wrestling with it. Like, you see them confronting the own monsters that exist inside their head. There's some magic that happens in those moments.
We will rape you and your mom to give you something to talk about.
I think for me, it also has to do with grace and with humility and all of these other things to get them thinking of the impact that they could have, which isn't just how well they play ball, but is actually the caliber of man that they choose to be.
Having a sister and a mom and an aunt and my grandparents, I mean, it just hit me so much more because I have such a good relationship with them. I almost cried right in front of everybody. I was sitting there like holding it back the whole time.
It really hit me. Like, to be honest, I wanted to go give her a hug after that.
You stupid whore, I hope you die. # Lakers for life.
That's the power of the jersey. You have the ability to ignite a mob.
There's nothing I can teach you. There's nothing I know that is as powerful as what you just learned. Be the ones that change the narrative around big-time college athletes. And then use that influence and power to be the cure. That's a hell of a dream. That's a dream that can change the world.
I grew up a poor girl in a rich kid's school, and that was my insecurity. That was my fear growing up.
When I was in 4th grade, I remember, one of the teachers came to my mom and they said, here's the thing, we're really concerned about Alexis. And the teacher was like, does someone in your family smoke cigarettes? Because she's showing up to school smelling like cigarettes and we're afraid that maybe she's sneaking them and smoking before school. I was 9. And my mom didn't have the heart to tell her that she would go and bartend until 2, usually get home about 3 o'clock in the morning. And then to make extra cash, before we showed up to this super rich school, we would go back and we would clean the bar. So at 9 years old, I was stocking beer and I was cleaning urinals. Because the majority of my friends at Westlake had maids, if not live-in maids, and chefs, and we were maids.
I grew up with 4 older brothers, and they are the best men that I know.
She came late to a family of 4 boys, and she just had to keep up.
She has always exerted this mentality of anything you can do, I can obviously do, and probably do far better. You know, I'm gonna throw this bottle in that trash can 10 yards away, and be like, don't do that, that's dumb. That's a terrible idea. And then she'll just throw it and make eye contact with you, and it goes in the trash can.
She's always been that way, just the tenacity, just that fearlessness.
Right out of grad school, I launched a nonprofit called I Am That Girl, and we have 1 million girls involved, and we just opened up in our 20th country.
I think that one of the things I love within I Am That Girl is we get to talk about confidence and we get to talk about things that matter, and I just wanted there to be a safe place and a sanctuary for us to come together and have these kind of conversations.
She does just go after things. She's as strong as anybody I've ever known.
Even in her weak moments, she is fired up, and she will gather the strength that it takes to get out there and do what she feels needs to be done to make changes in this world.
It was made really clear to me from a really young age the things that made me matter in life. And it was simple. We had 2 ways in which we're told that we matter. Our physical attractiveness, based on an impossible, unrealistic expectation, and the attention that we get from you. Do you have any idea how powerful that makes you? That's why you have chicks who don't even know you but know the number on the back of your jersey sending you text messages telling them to come to their dorm room. Those aren't confident girls who feel good about themselves. Those chicks are broken. That's what that is. That's a little girl who somewhere inside thinks that if she gets attention from you, that she'll matter.
I think if you ask them to vocalize what a real man is, they could tell you at least what they hope it to be, but I don't think often enough they're being asked that question.
What would you say is the definition of manhood? Words that come to mind with manhood. Provide. Respect. Morals. Responsibility. Leadership. So I love that those were like really sweet responses of like leadership and morals. And tell me what is manhood really right now? What? How much money you have? Thank you for being honest. How many females? That was a very respectful way of saying that. How many females you get? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. But what I want is like, let's be honest.
It's like saying how many like girls you gotta say something like you gotta.
So how many girls you? Is that correct? So how much money you have? How many girls you? What else? If we're being honest, okay? How big your is? Finally! Finally, someone says it.
Few things that I've learned being in the trenches with these guys is we know that they consume 10 hours of media a day. We know that they consume 3,000 brand images. We know that the majority of these young men learn about sex through porn. So maybe we can stop being so shocked because they're doing exactly what we as a society are programming them to do, and they're doing it very well.
When they're seeking, as most teenagers are, or collegiate student athletes are, how do I become a real man? What does a real man even mean? You look at now, major sports and brands, are they kind of defining manhood, whether it's a LeBron James commercial or a Russell Wilson commercial?
Do you know that on average, our generation, that we consume 10 hours of media a day? We consume 3,000 brand images every single day.
The reality is you're stating every day who you are, what you stand for, with the shirt that you wear, with the sneaks you put on, with how you do your hair. All of those little elements are stating, this is me.
Whereas men, their self-esteem in a lot of ways is predicated on success, achievement, being strong, not being weak.
It's supposed to be somebody with women, with cash, who's got swagger, who talks smack, who gets what he wants, who's always carrying something sweet on his arm.
There are so many problems with big-time college athletics, but the way that women are objectified and treated as part of the prize you get is probably the most serious.
You feel like you can treat a woman a certain way because of who you are, and that's okay. You know, that's maybe the mindset, and that's not okay.
Women are not a prize for being good at a sport.
Getting, you know, as many girls as possible and money and fame, it fades. It's cool at the time, like, cause everybody's telling you yes, but in the long run, man, like, it gets old.
I saw Tom Brady speak after he had won his 3rd Super Bowl, and I heard him say that there's got to be more to life than this. And I think when you get to that point, you realize that it's all an illusion that gets created, and that for men, they're trying to grasp towards that illusion. And once they do get it of what, quote unquote, is deemed as being successful, they realize it's very empty, it's very fleeting, and there's nothing there to it.
The most important question you're ever gonna answer in your entire life is, who are you outside of playing ball? Because this whole world, this university, treats you like gods. And when they are done with you, what are you left with?
I was so lucky to be, you know, to be taught what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a father one day when I become a father, to be a friend. And unfortunately, a lot of these young men aren't taught that way. They're taught how to be an athlete.
I've been around college athletics for over 20 years. Played on big stages, coached 4 Rose Bowls, broadcasted over 100 games. And I can't tell you more than one play that I played in, that I coached, that I broadcasted. But I can tell you the character of my teammates. I can tell you what our locker room was like when I was at USC with Coach Carroll. I can tell you which coaches are building real men in their college football programs as a broadcaster. There's a fundamental difference, and it's short-sighted versus looking at the big picture of life, winning the game, winning the snap, winning the award, and winning in the game of life.
For me, manhood comes down to just 2 words, responsibility and accountability. I want to make sure that I'm a good role model. I want to make sure that I stand up and for the right things and show leadership.
Being a good man, I think the one thing you want to do is you want to be vulnerable. Vulnerability gives you, I think, the greatest opportunity for growth. I think a lot of times people think vulnerability is just being weak, but we all struggle with different things. And in those struggles, I think being vulnerable to understand, hey, listen, you know, my vulnerability may help someone else say, geez, you know, I'm struggling with the same thing, or I'm having the same challenges.
To be a man, to me, is to be a leader, to be a champion. And I don't say that in sports, I say that in life. Leaders hold themselves to a higher standard than everybody else.
True success isn't necessarily measured in wins and losses. It's how you play the game. Did you do it the right way? Your strength of character, who you are as an athlete, as a role model, because you are a role model, whether you don't want to be one or not, you are.
When you put that jersey on, no matter what we feel inside, people portray you differently because you're, you know, Matt Leinart, the quarterback, or you're LeBron James. You know, you're put on a pedestal because of who you are, because you play sport. They feel like they have to be someone else, you know, because it's a Superman cape. You feel invincible.
You know you're important, you understand the power that you have, but don't get caught up in that.
You've got 20,000 social media followers before you even say hut, and you are literally a household name in fan bases around the country.
Welcome to the It Factory.
Every single thing counts, the way you walk, the way you talk, and nowadays the way you tweet, the way you post on Facebook, the way you share on Instagram. Everyone feels that they know you. So what does that do to an 18 to 22-year-old? It makes all of these young men feel as though they need to project what people expect them to become.
And when you're living like that all the time, you're constantly trying to hide because you know you can't live up to what society's expectations are and what your own expectations are to be that perfect person that everybody thinks you're supposed to be.
The reality is that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you've been programmed in the 10 hours of media a day and the 3,000 brand images that you see and in the education that we provide you through porn. It's not your fault that you're programmed the way that you are and that you're actually programmed to be disrespectful to women. But now that you know, it is your responsibility to do something about that.
Yeah. We warriors. We warriors. Warriors. Yeah. 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 Long days, late nights, I'm ready to take flight. I'm standing at the ready, I don't never get stage fright. I know I'm a champion.
I'm not a selfish human. I love to celebrate with my teammates. So being a team sport just brings so much out of me.
You're a team, right? And what makes the locker room special is just the personalities, because we all know the work, the sacrifice, the hours, the time, the blood, sweat, and tears.
When you're down, someone's got your back. When you're winning, like, you're all winning together. It's just the camaraderie.
You're only as good in life as the people that are around you.
The thing that I miss and the thing that I love about playing a team sport, especially football because there's so many guys, is you learn so much about other people, other men.
When you have a group of people like us that have solid beliefs, solid core values, a group of men that are building towards a common goal of achieving success and doing it the right way and being examples to not only one another but to our community as a whole, we can achieve great things and we can be role models for so many different people.
The beauty of a simple ball, whether it's a soccer ball, football, basketball, baseball, bowling ball, tennis ball, racquetball, it doesn't matter. The beauty of a ball is that with every fiber of it, it's teaching things so far beyond the zeros that end up on the scoreboard. He's teaching you how to respond to adversity. He's teaching you how to compete to be your best. He's teaching you to develop a sense of inner grit that you didn't even know existed.
It's a brotherhood. I mean, everybody goes to bat for you. It's a sense of family.
It's on us as men to look out for your teammates.
The best players on your team make everyone else around them better. Because the one thing about chasing something really special like a championship is it helps you see how you have to come together as a team, how you have to be unselfish, how you have to care about each other. The best teams ever coached, they loved each other, they cared about each other, and they accepted each other.
I love that y'all play ball, but you basically have the shelf life, realistically, of a male model. For the 3, at least in football, who go pro, 75% of NFL players after 2 years, they're not just broke, they're literally bankrupt. And for the one of you who goes into the NBA, 2 years out of the NBA, 78% of you are bankrupt.
Less than 1% of 1% of 1% make it to the NFL. High school, college, all those things. If you produce, you win, you keep your job. If you don't, you're gone. And the next guy is up. And that's the ruthless, cutthroat business of professional sports.
Football's it's one of the worst relationships you can have in your life because it tells you when it's over. It's not a two-way conversation. You know, when it ends, you know, the clock strikes zeros, they take your jersey, they take your helmet, and you want to keep playing it, it doesn't matter. The game is like, you're done, your skill set is over.
You're going to play sports until you're 30, 35, and you're going to move on to something else.
What sports allows us to have is this ending, right? Fourth quarter ends, and there's zeros across the clock. Game ends, there's a winner and loser. Fine, your record is 1-0, 0-1. You get drafted, you don't. You start, you don't. You get a raise, you don't. You get fired, you get lauded. Those things happen because that clock eventually reads 0. But in life, it goes so much further than the game.
You know, you can be the greatest athlete in the world, and people talk about that until you're blue in the face, but there's gonna be another great athlete, and they're gonna talk about them, and you're gonna be an afterthought. But they're never gonna forget the human you are.
My name is Ray Rice, and I currently work with young kids for a living. I was the oldest of 4. My mom, she was a single parent. My dad was shot and killed when I was a baby. It forced me to be the man of the house at a very young age. I started paying bills in my household at 11 years old. So my first job was sweeping up hair in a barbershop. And I used to brush people off for tips, and whether it was $20, I'd bring it home to my mom, and if we can get a meal out of that, we were happy. I didn't have a chance to be a child. I knew I wasn't gonna have to pay for college because I was getting a scholarship, and I realized that I was living better in college than my mom was living at home. And it really made me say that I could no longer stay here no more because I was living better than, my siblings. And it was a reality check that, they're still struggling. When I got to the NFL, the first thing I did was move my mom from the projects to a different apartment. I don't want to say I went like crazy and did obnoxious things with money, but it was safe to say at 21, when I was drafted, I had a chance to be a boy again. I remember going straight to Land Rover and buying a Range Rover. I knew for like a 4 or 5 year period of my life, I never had to worry about anything. In 2012, after we won the Super Bowl, from then on, my life changed forever. I was a Super Bowl champion. Now, I didn't spend any time with my family. I was becoming a better football player, but a worse person. I lost myself. Me and my wife, we just were not seeing eye to eye that year. And it leads us into Atlantic City. It was Valentine's Day weekend. We went to a nightclub and we had our drinks. We go to a restaurant. We were going to try to, have some food and, recover from just being out partying. We argue, you add alcohol and you add, just years and months of situations of not getting dealt with, and I made the worst decision of my life.
Graphic new video surfacing showing the moment Ravens running back Ray Rice punched his fiancée in an Atlantic City elevator.
The Baltimore Ravens decided today they had had enough of star running back Ray Rice.
Rice was suspended indefinitely after graphic video surfaced showing the extent of the assault.
After everything, we get off the elevator. We're dealing with the officers, we're dealing with everything, and I made a phone call to my agent and my mom and told them that, this is not good.
I'm disgusted by Ray Rice's conduct. I'm disgusted by him punching his wife.
Her husband is a multimillionaire. That's the reason she stayed there.
I was living the dream. And because of a horrible decision, I had to face the nightmare. I know I didn't have it all figured out, but people turned me into an animal.
Why would a woman stay with a man like that?
I've seen wet dish rags with more life than this chick when she hit the ground.
I've seen a little bit of the video. Tough to watch the video.
Do you want someone like this representing your brand?
To burn his jersey, because he doesn't deserve to be honored. Ray Rice is trash.
One of my favorite quotes, if you want to know what kind of man a guy is, look at the way in which he treats the women in his life.
I'm curious, if you had the opportunity to sit down with a bunch of, college guys, what advice would you give them?
They need to know that we're more than just our bodies. We're not just, we're not just a piece of.
The way in which you treat people is practice for how you treat yourself, and the way in which you treat yourself is practice for how you treat people.
I think in order to respect others, not only do you have to respect yourself, I think you got to know yourself. And that's really hard. I mean, how often do we do the lonely work? How often do we dive in and say, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want to represent? Very rarely.
Discipline is the truest sense of love. That discipline is an expression of how you feel about yourself. And when you feel that way about yourself, you're more inclined to feel that way about others.
Sexual assault is but a symptom of the problem. The problem is the mindset of how these young men are being programmed to think about, to talk about, and to treat women.
Some guys put themselves in the situations when they're not even thinking about it. If a guy goes to a party and, he has just met this girl and this girl and him have been talking for, say 2 weeks or something, he doesn't really know her, but he thinks he knows her. She has some alcohol in her, he has some alcohol in him. As soon as alcohol and any kind of correlation between two people happen, it's all bad if anybody says anything went wrong. With one word, something could go one way. With another word, the whole direction of everything could go a different way. And some people don't think about those things.
When I first see someone accused of sexual assault or involved in sexual violence, I instantly think, why did you put yourself in that situation? And I always think they might be guilty.
You can't do that. You can't treat a woman that way. You can't hit a woman. You can't do any of those things.
And you want to take that young man who's being accused of that crime and say, what are you thinking? What are you doing? How could this possibly even have happened?
A staggering 55 universities are facing a federal investigation because of the way they respond to their students in a crisis of sexual assault.
Sarah says she was encouraged to go talk things out with her rapist.
My assailant was given 1 semester suspension and is currently back on campus.
There's this idea that, well, she was drinking, so she deserved it, or yeah, it's bad, but it's her fault. And I think that, when a man gets drunk, there's no fear that he's going to be raped.
20-year-old swimming star Brock Turner could have been looking at 14 years for sexually assaulting an intoxicated and unconscious woman behind a dumpster on Stanford's campus. But instead of 14 years, a judge has ruled Turner will only spend 6 months in jail, eligible for parole in 3 months.
I'm going to begin our program today with a gut-wrenching story that has gone viral. It is a rape victim's letter to her attacker. She writes, "You don't know me, but you've been inside me, and that's why we're here today."
The judge bent over backwards in order to give this young man a very lenient sentence.
So here we have the so-called perfect victim. She did everything right. She was completely unconscious. This wasn't her boyfriend. She didn't know him. They were strangers. It happened in the dirt behind a dumpster. Great evidence, eyewitnesses, DNA. He was actually arrested with an erection still in his pants. There was no question of his guilt. He did it. He was seen doing it. And she cooperated fully. She had a rape kit immediately. She was a great witness, and she still got really, really, really mistreated with that sentence. That sent a message to young women and young men that this is not a serious crime.
So then now, as a victim, why would I ever stand up? Why would I ever utilize my voice?
Brock Turner had a lot of things going for him in terms of why the judge gave him such a low sentence, but the reality is he should have been sent to prison.
We have accepted that sexual aggression
Sexual harassment is the norm. We don't even know what to call it. When it's not there, it's called respect.
And if that individual gets accused, convicted of any type of sexual crime, I don't think they should ever put on a jersey, ever be allowed to transfer, ever be allowed to play the greatest game on the planet, ever again.
We cannot continue to triage these symptoms, putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. We're at pandemic levels. This is happening everywhere.
There was an alleged gang rape by members of the De Anza College baseball team. There was a quote from a juror saying she was asking for it. They found the young men not liable. There was a really disturbing case in New Jersey in which members of the football team sexually assaulted a cognitively impaired, I believe, 12 or 13-year-old girl. The entire town rallied around these boys. There was another football player case, and he committed very serious felony domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend, actually. He punched her several times in the face with a closed fist, choked her until she started to lose consciousness, and then literally threw her out of a car head first. He pleaded guilty to that, felony domestic violence. But the judge didn't sentence him, and instead he entered a court order allowing him to go to Hawaii, where he had the chance to play D1 football.
And when I see instances where they're let off easy, that is just adding to the problem. It doesn't allow you to rape someone, to sexually assault someone.
Is there a day that goes by that you don't think about it?
No. I think about it every day. 100%. He was strong. Because I'm pretty strong, but not as strong as him.
You went to a party.
And we were just watching people play beer pong. And then he kind of made me uncomfortable because he started to like touch me in a way that I just was like, he like put his hand like under my shirt. So I just was like arched away, and I was like, I tried to get up, and he's like, no, come on, like stay. Like, I haven't seen you in so long, like we have to catch up. And I was like nervously laughed. I was just like, no, I'm good. I went down to the hallway, and to my left there was like this room, and it was just dark, and I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna go here. I don't wanna like deal with people. I'll just wait for my friends to leave. They'll text me when they leave, obviously, I thought. And someone came in the room, and the door opened and shut, and it just was like, hey, like, who's it? And he kind of like came to like closer to me, and he like grabbed me, and he was like he was like, oh, like I missed you, and just, I don't know, just like the same thing. He kept saying like the same thing. And he started like kissing my neck, and I was like, stop, like I can't do this, like I don't want to do it. I just don't, like, no, I don't want to do that. I remember getting really angry because he just like wouldn't like give up, and I was like, what the hell, stop. And he just, I guess he got angry because I got angry. So he like grabbed the back of my hair, and he was like, shut up, like really angry. He was like, stop. It went from me being really angry to like really like scared, and just be like, please, please, like I'm really sorry, like I don't know, like I'm sorry. And it's almost, he just didn't have any emotion. He didn't care. When you say no, like guys are just supposed to be like, oh, okay. Like I was very naive thinking that. He ripped off my clothes. He said, he's just like, don't move. And he got up and he took off his clothes. And then he like shined a light on me, and he's like, oh, you're so beautiful. I just like expected somebody to come in, because it was not like it was a quiet encounter. Like I was yelling. It just blows my mind how somebody could think of not doing something. I don't get how they have the heart in them to not do anything. I just remember waking up, and I was in the bed, was like completely naked, and I had like blood. I had like bruises and things, and I just like slowly got up, and I was confused. Some parts of my body were like hurting, and I didn't really understand like why. I remember just like looking at myself and just like, I don't know, I felt so like stupid. I was like, why did I let that happen? Like how did I let that happen? Like, I try not to think about it, but it's still there. 100%, every day.
I think bro code gets a really bad rap, and I actually think there's a lot of really great things about bro code. I think that sense of camaraderie, that sense of loyalty, that sense of guys being able to be honest with each other and kind of have this close-knit friendship, I think is amazing.
How do we help these women? How do we help these young men make better decisions? We need something to change. We need to speak up, and we need to help these women. We need to help these men. We need to do something, but we haven't seen it yet.
All of a sudden, you become a little more conscious to loving the girls and women in your life so that manhood is intangibly connected to the treatment of your girls and your sisters, because I think there can be a new bro code. I want to meet the people who have the courage to stand up and say something. And even if it's referred to as locker room talk, and even if you didn't really mean anything by it, to have the courage to just speak.
There's a lot of situations where people of my age calling women out of their name. That's a big thing that comes up on social media is, somebody says a B word to a woman, or, somebody just, like I said, just calls them out of their name. It's all about just standing up for what you believe in. And, if you have the guts to say something to these people that, just continuously bash girls, then, that goes a long way.
These guys can walk in a locker room and say the simple sentence, we don't do that. No more talking smack about your relationship. No more talking trash about a woman. No more of this quote-unquote locker room banter. Simply, we protect women in all cases.
If you saw somebody that was really drunk getting into a car, you would say, why don't you take a cab? Why don't you take an Uber? I'll give you a ride. And in the same way, if there's a woman that's passed out unconscious, be a man. Do what's right.
People are upstanders all the time. The choice to intervene to protect someone from sexual assault takes a little more courage.
Christian Garcia, a University of Florida junior linebacker, witnessed a sexual assault of a 19-year-old woman in progress and took action.
Christian Garcia saved this woman and stopped the sexual assault from happening. He physically went in there and did something. This guy should be celebrated.
Graduate students Carl Frederick Arndt and Peter Johnson were riding their bikes and stopped when they saw two people on the ground near a dumpster.
I'm so over talking about Brock Turner. I'm interested in talking about Carl and Peter, who were the guys who witnessed what he was doing. You want to talk about a scene out of a movie. You want to talk about heroes. They roll up on something that doesn't look right. Homeboy jumps up and starts running, and they chase him down and tackle him and bring him to justice. Like, that is who you are.
I believe the number one ingredient to healthy relationships is confrontation. And people think confrontation is yelling and screaming. It's not that at all. Confrontation is just confronting something that's going on. You can privately have a conversation with somebody and say, you know what, you're better than this.
At that moment, I wish I had someone to pull me away from the situation. Yank me away, stare me down, and make me like wake up.
If you're in a situation where you see a teammate doing the wrong thing, put your 2 feet on the ground, stand up, be a man about it. It is easy sometimes to walk away when you see someone doing the wrong thing, but that's not what accountability is about. That's not what's being responsible and looking out for not only that young woman, but looking out for your teammate.
A young guy come in from going out the night before, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, that club had a lot of girls, man, this, that, and the other. And then you'll have the older guys, the Anquan Holdens and the guys that be like, yo, we don't want to hear about your night before, the 10 girls that you wanted to talk to or, tried to sleep with. Like, I'm gonna stand up to Anquan? No, you're gonna listen to him, and you ain't gonna come in talking about the night before. But if you do come in talking about the night before, and Anquan walks in, I guarantee you that conversation stops.
I know I've done it to people on my team where I hear like, oh, well, that or, da-da-da-da. And I always, when I hear it now, and I've done it since I started coming here, is every time I hear that, I say, why she gotta be a bro?
Yeah, you always say that.
And then they're like, think about it, and be like,
Is this redefining manhood, or is this about being a decent human being?
I think that bro code can look something like this. What's your sister's name? Grace. What's your sister's name? Taylor. So what would you do if anyone ever touched a hair on Grace's head?
Probably kill him.
You'd kill him. What would you do?
Same.
You'd kill him. Okay, so here's the thing. This is crazy, but you can't follow Grace with a baseball bat, correct? For the rest of her life. Can you follow Taylor? Okay, you can't either. So what if this? What if this is just a new contract? What if now you say that when you encounter the Taylors of the world, you're gonna hook him up and you're gonna f***ing protect her. And you will do the same with Grace. And when something looks sketchy and something looks out of place, for a split second, you put someone you love in that moment. And suddenly that moment becomes really different. So maybe bro code can be that. Taking care of each other's, whoever she is. Just like when I come in and I speak to your sisters and to your girlfriends and I remind them every single day that they matter, I have the luxury of coming in and reminding you guys of the same thing. So that you're better than just the sport that you play.
We put so much stake into this game and to just pouring our heart into a ball, into a silly little game. And really at the end of it, how we did on the field means nothing. But the beauty is this ball taught us what courage is, taught us what it means to be a real man, taught us when we need to say, we don't do that, taught us what it means to truly protect her.
We need people being accountable, and we need people standing up when they see wrong.
We have a great opportunity as men to lift each other up, to lift women up, to really try to make a difference, in the world. We're all in a position that we're vulnerable. We're all in a position that we have our own strengths and talents. We got faults and weaknesses. But really just to recognize the true and best version of ourselves, we need each other.
The goal for these young men is just that they recognize that they're important in this conversation. They actually possess the power to potentially impact someone's life forever by choosing to do what's right.
You are the guys who impact everyone. You are the guys that all the guys on campus are like hoping that you laugh at their jokes and that you invite them to the after party and that you're cool enough to like high five them. You are the dudes that every other dude on this 50,000 plus campus are looking at, taking cues from you, and I believe that we can rebrand what manhood is. Because like I said, the whole world is talking about you. Like you're the problem, and I actually believe that I'm standing in a room full of people who have the potential to be the cure. I'm standing in a room with real life protectors. That's who you are, so that is who I summon today. I summon the version of you who is a real life superhero. Because we, as women, have never in our entire lives needed you as much as we need you right now, in this moment.
Staring in the mirror, trying to see myself clearer. Wondering if God was a woman, would I hear her? Talking to myself, have I made my mother proud? Are the women in my life comfortable when I'm around? It's hard being tough all the time. It's hard being stuck in the grind while you shine at your prime. I know you got stuff going on, but brother, put down your phone. Show you how to change the tone while you in a lady's song. Yo, I see the world differently a lot now that I'm grown. I like to think that one day I'll have a daughter of my own. My young princess, hair black, eyes brown. Wondering who gon' protect her when her pops is not around. I choose you, young man, not because you have strength, but because you understand that having power ain't everything. We always got better dreams. What's a land full of kings if we can't protect the queens, huh? Yeah. It's a land full of kings if we can't protect the queens, huh? It's a land full of kings if we can't protect